He's going to tell the story first, and then we'll discuss it.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Ghostly Stories, brought to you by Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio on YouTube Live. Um, we have a unique story for everybody tonight. It's gonna be an awesome show tonight. I'm your host. Here we go. Stop.
Echo.
I am your host, Roger Belt, and my co-host is Mr. James Clum Perrins, and he has some friends over there with him tonight. So we're gonna have plenty of help over here tonight. So I hope everybody's ready for this. What we are talking about is the Russian sleep experiment. Toward the end of the 1940s, Soviet researchers sealed 5 prison inmates in an airtight chamber and dosed them with an experimental stimulant gas to test the effects of prolonged sleep deprivation. Their behavior was observed via two-way mirrors and their conversations monitored electronically. They had been promised their freedom if they could go entirely without sleep for 30 days. The first few days of the experiment passed uneventfully. By the 5th day, however, the subjects began showing signs of stress and were overheard bemoaning their circumstances. They stopped conversing with their fellow inmates, choosing instead to whisper compromising information about one another into the microphones, apparently in an effort to win the favor of the researchers. Paranoia set in. On the 9th day, the screaming began. First one subject, then another, was observed running around the chamber screaming at the top of his lungs for hours on end. Equally disconcerting was the reaction of the quieter subjects who began ripping apart the books they had been given to read, smearing the pages with feces and plastering them over the mirrored windows so their actions could no longer be observed. Then, just as suddenly, the screaming stopped. The subjects ceased communicating altogether. 3 long days passed without a sound from inside the chamber. Fearing the worst, the researchers addressed the subjects via the intercom. We are opening. Oh, no.
I like that one.
I lost my place, sir.
We are opening.
Okay, hold on here. They said, step away from the door and lie flat on the floor, or you will be shot. Compliance will earn one of you your immediate freedom. A voice from inside answered, we no longer want to be freed. 2 more days passed without contact of any kind as the scientists debated what to do next. Finally, they decided to terminate the experiment. At midnight on the 15th day, the stimulant gas was flushed from the chamber and replaced with fresh air in preparation for the subject's release. Far from being pleased at the prospect of leaving the chamber, the subjects began screaming as if in fear of their lives. They begged to have the gas turned back on. Instead, the researchers unsealed the door to the chamber and sent armed soldiers inside to retrieve them. Nothing could have prepared them for the carnage they witnessed upon entering. One subject was found dead, lying face down in 6 inches of bloody water. Chunks of his flesh had been torn off and stuffed into the floor drain. All of the test subjects were found to have been severely mutilated. In fact, what's worse, the wounds appeared to be self-inflicted. They had ripped open their own abdomens and disemboweled themselves with their bare hands. Some had even eaten their own flesh. The four who were still alive seemed terrified of falling asleep and refused to leave the chamber, again pleading with the researchers to turn the gas back on. When the soldiers attempted to remove the inmates by force, they fought back so ferociously they couldn't believe their eyes. One suffered a ruptured spleen and lost so much blood there was literally nothing left for his heart to pump, yet continued flailing for a full 3 minutes until his lifeless body collapsed. The remaining subjects were restrained and transported to a medical faculty for treatment. The first to be operated on fought so furiously against being anesthesia, you know what I'm talking about, anesthesia, that he tore muscles and broke bones during the struggle. As soon as the good grief, stop.
I like your phone ring.
As soon as the anesthetic took effect, his heart stopped and he died. The rest underwent surgery without sedation. Far from feeling any pain, however, they laughed hysterically on the operating table, so hysterically that the doctors, perhaps fearing their own safety, administered a paralytic agent to immobilize them. After surgery, the survivors were asked why they had mutilated themselves and why they so desperately wanted to go back on the stimulant gas. Each in turn gave the same answer: I must remain awake. Okay. Hold on just a second. I'm doing a show. Well, I had a chance. Okay, I'll get back to you. My daughter trying to call me. Okay.
Right. That's cool. Yeah, cool you're hearing from your daughter. That's all right. That's
no, it's not an emergency. We got it. The researchers considered euthanizing them to obliterate every trace of the failed experiment, but were overruled by their commanding officer, who ordered that it be resumed immediately, with 3 of these researchers joining the inmates in the sealed chamber. Horrified at the prospect, the chief researcher pulled out a pistol and shot the commanding officer point blank.
Whoa.
He then turned and shot one of the 2 surviving subjects. Pointing his gun at the last one left alive, he asked, "What are you? I must know." "Have you forgotten so easily?" the subject said, smiling. "We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread." The researcher fired a bullet into his heart. The EEG monitor flatlined as the subject murmured these last words: "So nearly free." Analysis. It's a given that human beings require a certain amount of sleep on a regular basis in order for our minds and bodies to function properly. Anyone who has experienced a night or 2 or 3 of insomnia knows how critical even a few hours of refreshing sleep can be to one's health and well-being. What would happen if we went 15 or more days without the natural downtime?
Can't do it.
Virtually every sentient creature requires. Would we fall apart mentally and physically? Would we go insane? Would we die? It's questions like these the Russian sleep experiment was supposedly designed to answer, with the horrifying catastrophic results reported above. So, Questions.
Well,
Questions. You know, I mean, I've been without sleep for like 2 days before. And heck, when I go without sleep for, you know, a day and a half or whatever, or, you know, anywhere over 24 hours, pretty much, I get kind of loopy. And that's when I do my best work. Just saying. But seriously, you know, when you go without sleep for a little while, you know, you're not just your body gets wore out, but your brain also gets wore out.
oh, it gets weird.
Yeah, you know, you will say things without thinking, you will do things without thinking, and you sure as heck don't need to be behind the wheel of a car.
Oh, absolutely not. No way.
Been there, done that before. In fact, I remember going to the store one day, and it's like I just kind of blacked out for a little bit. And when I woke up, I was going up through the college area where all the crosswalks are, and snapped to, I guess, in time enough to be able to stop for the people in the crosswalk. That was scary. Um, and that was probably from about 24 to maybe 30 hours without sleep. So imagine going days.
Well, I've been there, Roger. Not to interrupt, but just to maybe tell a little story that goes along with this. I spent over 17 years straight on the road with rock and roll bands, and we never slept. I mean, we were in the truck driving, you know, and get into a room at 11 o'clock in the morning, set the whole show up, do the show, tear it down at 4 o'clock in the morning. You're driving 500 miles to the next place. And all three of us in the truck, the crew guys, were all sleep deprived at that point. So it's like, you know, you kind of fall asleep a little bit with one eye open, and that builds up after a while. Beyond that, I mean, that was only like a couple days at a time, and then we get a night's sleep somewhere and keep rolling. But something you don't know about me that I'm not proud of, but I'm going to tell you about, I was a cocaine addict for a while. And I made it 8 days with no sleep. Now, supposedly, from everything I've read, after about 7 days, your organs start shutting down, everything else, and you start to die. Well, for me, at 7 days, it got to be kind of fun because suddenly I started to hallucinate. It was like LSD or whatever. Your brain just goes all over the place. I mean, I saw dancing fairies on the roof of the house and in the trees and this and that, and I thought it was real. Now I knew it wasn't, because I knew it was just sleep deprivation and I was high. But
you didn't see
so
naked
realistic.
cowgirls floating on the ceiling of the 7-Eleven?
Yeah. I'll go with that.
Well, ZZ Top did. I just wondered if you did. You know what I mean?
But the sleep deprivation itself is it becomes I mean, even without the drugs involved, which okay, I'm sorry, but I did that. So sleep deprivation itself puts your mind in a hallucinogenic state, and you start seeing things and you believe it, and it's real to you. Now for me, I knew what the situation was, so I knew it wasn't real. I didn't let it take me over, but at the same time, it was kind of fun.
Well, I experienced my hippie days, and I did some things I'm not proud of. Also, I used to love purple microdot acid, and went on many little trips without leaving the farm. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
And sleep deprivation will sort of do the same similar things after a while.
Yeah. It takes a few days to really get to that point with sleep deprivation.
I mean, you'll see things
Your
that
brain just starts to
you'll see things that ain't there. You'll create things out of nothing. Um, I remember being in the barracks. I was in the National Guard at the time, and I believe we were in Virginia at the time, and we were staying in the barracks there, and I slept on the top bunk, and I remember thinking I was going to have to fly up there because it was so high up, I just couldn't see my way up there, you know. Uh,
don't mean to interrupt, but I do. It brings me back to our earlier conversations on earlier shows of hypnagogia, of where the brain is at the point of REM, and so things become real. Thoughts and as your brain tries to heal itself, become reality to you. And the term is hypnagogia. And I think that's what happens with sleep deprivation.
well,
Just my point.
your body is required, or well, I don't know how you would term required, but um, your body needs so much REM sleep per night. If it doesn't get it, because that's when your mind lets go and you get that, you know, real deep rest that you need.
Yeah.
That's also when you dream a lot of crazy stuff. But if you don't get that, you know, your brain starts to overload, I guess. You know, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
when you can start creating things that aren't there, and all the kind of crazy stuff that you would do on acid trip. uh, I
Well,
used to.
that's like the whole thing is basically a chemical imbalance. Just like, if you're taking acid, for example, that puts your chemicals out of balance, and your brain does different things. Well, sleep does the same thing. Lack of sleep. Um, all of a sudden, you're not balanced chemically, and you open up all sorts of different pathways.
Well, your brain is tired, your brain is overworked, but yet it's still trying to function, you know, keeping your body going, and also your thoughts going, and your perception, and everything else. And it just gets to the point to where it starts shutting down on its own.
And it also shuts down your organs at that point.
Even though you're awake, your brain is starting to shut itself down because it can't keep up. At least that's what I think. I don't claim to be a doctor, know all this stuff, but common sense tells me that when your brain gets to that point to where it's extremely tired, it shuts itself down.
Well,
And
there are scientific studies to prove that. So
and
you're right on.
you start creating stuff, to fit whatever you're in. If you've had crazy dreams about, like I said, about naked cowgirls floating on the ceiling, you might actually see one at that point. Because your brain's going to invent it. You know what I'm saying? Uh, and of course, if your brain had to invent something, well, we won't go there. Anyway, uh, am I going on sleep deprivation here? But anyway, days and days and days. Could you imagine if you were put into uh, room with no doors and no windows, airtight room, and all you had in there was some books and maybe a couple of people to talk to, but you were introduced to some kind of gas that kept you from being able to go to sleep. Now, after a week, you'd probably start getting all mumbly, like after 10 days or so.
I'm wondering what that gas is. I want some.
No, I don't think I want any of that. I have enough trouble sleeping as it is. But imagine as the days go by and your brain, as I said, starts shutting down its normal mental capacity, and weirdness takes over. You might get the idea that the others in that room with you are out to get you.
Well,
so your natural thing is defend yourself, get them first, something like that. Now they were talking about them people disemboweling themselves. Now, I don't know what would go through somebody's head to make them do something like that, but it would have to be pretty crazy. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Okay, I was interrupting you, and I apologize. Think of the people, for example, in the International Space Station. They're in a room, no windows, out there, nobody to talk to, no nothing.
Well, a couple of people.
And what they're going through, that has to be really, really weird. And it would take a special kind of person to be able to handle that pressure, that whole loss of time, space, gravity, everything else. That would have to be really, really weird. I could see that whole type of scenario happen there very easily. And it surprises me, and maybe it has happened. I don't know, but and we just haven't heard about it. But I would expect that type of situation there, and then long space travel. If you're going to spend 5 years, something like that, going to Mars or whatever in a small capsule, and it's like, wow. Well, what's going to go through your brain? How's your brain going to handle all that, just being enclosed in a small space?
And they're dealing with the weightlessness too, so they're having to struggle physically a little more than normal.
For sure.
Now that you brought that up, I'm going to ask a silly question here, but and we'll get back on topic after this, but I got to ask this. If you were in a space capsule and you had like a couple of guys in there, but they're in their section of the ship doing what they're supposed to do, so you've got a lot of time to yourself.
I'd be playing some ZZ Top.
Might you not revert to childhood and invent an invisible friend to talk to?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that just occurred to me. If you spend a lot of time alone on ship, especially in some of these sci-fi movies where everybody's dead on the ship except you, and it's a big, humongous ship, and you're wandering around all over the place, you'll talk to yourself, or you'll invent a person to talk to. Give them a name and all that stuff. I mean.
Oh, well, your ultra ego, whatever you want to call it. You're talking to yourself, or you're talking to somebody else. It's your other ego, and yeah, I mean, you would need to do that, I would think.
Well, your brain might tell you, "Hey, look, if I talk to myself, I know I'm going crazy." So instead of saying I'm talking to myself, I'm going to invent somebody to talk to, whereas I'm talking to a different person. even though they're not really there, you know. Anyways, that was just an idea I had. Just
Well, that's pretty interesting because and people need that. People need somebody to interact with. Otherwise, crazy shit happens.
okay. So couldn't we? Yeah. So couldn't we not link those together?
Yeah.
With the sleep deprivation, especially if you were in a room by yourself, let's say, you know, and as your mind is shutting down and you're getting loopy, you know, not only might you invent someone to talk to, but you might actually see that person, you know, that you created in your head.
You may talk to God.
Yeah. And in that state of mind, you might actually see him.
Yeah.
Okay. Just saying you could create the same way if you were in a space capsule and you were, like I said, you were all by yourself and you needed somebody. Um, you might actually see and invent a alter ego to talk to converse with. Uh, you know, I guess to keep you in somewhat of a realm of sanity there, but
what was the TV show with the guy that had Wilson, the soccer ball?
Yeah, the movie. What was that?
Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I know exactly.
It drew a little
Castaway.
face on the soccer.
Castaway.
Yeah. Same type of thing right there.
Exactly.
Somebody to talk to.
If you had a basketball in there, you might draw a face on it, and that would be your companion. You know.
Yeah. That's totally understandable to me. I mean, people are meant to be companions and have friends and be social. When totally all alone, the brain doesn't work properly. It doesn't function right. You have to interact. That's the way we're built.
At what point, if you were going to go off the deep end from lack of sleep, how many days or at what point would a person have to be to literally rip their own guts out? Because I would look at it like after so many days of this, you're going to be so tired and you're going to be so run down that you're not going to have the strength to literally do that.
You'd be surprised. You actually go through, like I say, I've made it 8 days before, 8 days with no sleep, and you go through bursts of energy, and all of a sudden, you're just raring to go and this and that, and then you kind of okay for a while, but then you go through another burst of energy.
Okay, they were saying
that's your body sucking everything out.
That 9 days in, they were screaming and at the top of their lungs, for hours. So now you say you've been 8 days.
8, yeah.
What if you?
That was during Katrina, okay, in New Orleans, and I had a friend call me while on my 8th day. He called me from New Orleans, and we talked for about an hour. And we hung up the phone, and I sat there for a little bit. Said, did I really talk to him, or did I just hallucinate that? So I had to call him back and find out, because I wasn't sure. Yeah, but it was reassuring and helpful that he talked to me, that we did talk, and it actually did happen. But I was not sure at that time, because my brain was like really out there after 8 days with no sleep. Not exactly sure where I was going with that, but it's just, I guess I was just trying to show what the effects of no sleep can do to you. Sorry, I
Well,
kind of
if
stopped
you
the thing there.
like I said, if you got to a point, oh good Lord, if you got to a point where if you were gonna attack yourself, first off, why would you? Secondly, you must be at a point in your mind of where uh, you look at yourself as the alter ego that's trying to harm you, and you're fighting against it. I mean, that's just an idea, okay? Because why else would you?
The why would you comes into trying to find out what is reality. Um, for example, was I really talking to this guy on the telephone from New Orleans during Katrina, or was I just imagining it? I don't know. If I take this knife and I stick it in my gut, I'll know if it's real or not.
Well, that makes sense.
It's one of those finding reality points.
Yeah.
Because if it hurts, it's real.
Okay. Now you can't.
It's like pain is one of those things that tells you you're still alive.
But you can't tell me that at the point to where you start ripping your own guts out that you wouldn't know that was real. And hey, I'm ripping my guts out, and if she don't stop, I'm gonna wring her freaking neck.
Well, like I say, that's the point of determination of
yeah.
Is this just reality? Yeah,
But
yes. What happens in you, and you look down, you're actually bleeding, and you actually hurt.
Well, I mean, if you're
Yep,
sitting there
it's
looking at your own
reality.
guts laying on the floor, how much more reality-wise can you get? You know, your guts are laying on the floor, and you're looking at them, going, "So that's what they look like."
Yeah,
You know,
but
I mean,
that's what sleep deprivation can do to you. It puts you to a point of hallucinations that you don't know what is real and what isn't. So you have to actually feel something or know something that, okay, yeah, this is real.
it's like I said, this is, you gotta, and I don't even know how you would. You gotta imagine what kind of things run through a person's mind after, say, 12 to 15 days if they, were without sleep for 12 to 15 days.
See, I can't believe that at all because, like I say, I did 8 days and supposedly 7 days your organs start to shut down. 12 to 15 days, I have a hard time believing that.
Okay, could that possibly be an answer then to the disembowelment? Maybe their insides was hurting and they were trying to, I guess, get in there to stop the pain or to.
That's very possible. I doubt they would be conscious, actually. I mean, like I say, having gone 8 days, I doubt they would be conscious after.
Now, they had to be feeding them, right? Because you're not going to go that many days without food and water, or you're going to die anyway.
Well, it'd have to be intravenous.
So they had to be feeding them. I wonder at what point did they decide, because it said something about eating their own flesh. At what point did they decide that the food they were getting wasn't good enough and they needed to eat their own flesh?
Or maybe I'm thinking they were eating their own flesh probably because they were thinking it was something else.
Maybe they pictured it as something else. They could have pictured it as being a steak or something.
Or a monster or whatever, you know. Fight it any way you can. Bite it and eat it, you know.
Now, I'm going to tell you something. I know this is just me, so don't try this at home, folks. But if I thought going without sleep for a few days, I could picture a big old thick juicy steak and be like eating it for real, I might try that. Where's the baked potato and the sour cream and chives? You know, I want all of it though. I don't just want the steak. I want the whole meal. And then I wake up and half my arm's gone. You know. Oh. But
that's interesting to me because, like, when I go with a few days without sleep, I lose my appetite, and but my fear side builds up instead.
Right.
I lose my appetite for regular food, but my fear builds.
So that could also
be, and that's all psychological.
That could also be a part of why they would attack themselves in that manner.
Yeah. It's like,
you know,
what's that?
Yeah. You know, maybe they saw their arm or leg or whatever it was they were gnawing on as something that was attacking them.
Yeah.
You know. And you know, and say for instance, if you're in that state and everything, and you raise your arm up to your face, you know, you could picture that as some creature coming at your face, and you're gonna, you know, bite or fight back, bite back, however you want to look at it.
Well, that's the whole flight or fight theory, which is the whole evolution of the strong will survive type of things, either fight or flight. So you either run from it or you attack it. And you know, if it's something that seems threatening to you, and if your brain is at that point, your arm may seem threatening. So, you take a big bite.
Yeah, you go, and you in your mind, you're defending yourself.
Yeah, exactly. That's just basic instinct.
Let's see if anybody over here.
Yeah, we had some guests at the beginning, didn't we? Are they still there? Excuse me a second. I got to stand up for a bit.
Psychic experience during that time. Yeah, I suppose so. Well, your consciousness is disturbed. I think that's an understatement. When you get to that point to where you're gnawing at your own arm, I'd say you were beyond being disturbed. But well, what type of psychic experience would you think you would have, Mary, at a time like that? What do you think you would project or visualize or whatever else? And you know, you can say that, yeah, you know, you had a psychic experience or you had a mental experience. A psychic experience, I don't think, would tell you to gnaw on your arm. A mental experience would. So, weighing those two together, you know, what is your opinion? What do you think you would have as a psychic experience? So, would you have psychic experiences, James? What do you think?
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking to Mary there.
Well, I was too, but I'm putting that question to you also.
Okay, I could not hear her at all.
Well, no, she's typing in the chat room over there.
Okay.
Would you think it was actually a psychic experience or a mental experience?
I would think something like that would be more of a mental thing than psychic.
Right.
Like I say, the brain needs certain nourishment and certain downtime, everything else, and will create all sorts of things. I think a psychic thing would be much more defined in that area. God, that's hard to explain.
If you were, and I'm just thinking out loud here, if you were a gifted person with psychic abilities during that time, you might have a what's the word I'm looking for here? A phenomenal psychic experience, being that your mind is out of joint. You know what I'm saying?
If sleep deprivation were not involved, then I would say, yeah, it could be very, very much a psychic experience. But with sleep deprivation in the brain, I would say it's more physical than psychic.
But could you not combine the two if, say, like I said, when you reach that point of deprivation where your brain starts shutting down all its normal function, would it kind of like being, wouldn't it kind of be like sinking into your subconscious, so to speak? And your subconscious can create some wild stuff now, so.
That's an interesting thought, but at the same time, and yeah, gee, I'm not even good at this, but I would think it would take the ultimate work of the brain to do the psychic thing,
well,
rather than the physiological thing.
Yeah,
okay, that's just my way of thinking. But
would you say it was a psychic or psychotic event? You know, I mean,
psychotic.
Yeah, gnawing on your arm is psychotic. It's a psychotic event, but
yeah,
you know, and gnawing on somebody else's arm, that's just a cannibalistic event. But but I mean, you know,
we all have a little bit of that in us. You know,
if you were deprived of sleep enough that you saw somebody else's leg as a steak, like on the Bugs Bunny cartoon, where the guy's leg turned into a hot dog and the guy's putting the bread on it and all that. You know.
Okay. Until you mentioned the guy, I just went south with that whole idea. But okay.
Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, I had to throw that in there. I love my Bugs Bunny.
But, man, those cartoons were great.
Yeah, they were. But being at a point of mental breakdown, I guess. You know, I'm surprised they didn't mention that they were attacking each other. Instead, it's pretty much saying they were attacking themselves.
Well, they must have been isolated.
Well, they were in the room together.
Oh, they were in the room together. Okay.
Yeah,
I guess I didn't understand that part.
5 people in a room together.
Well, yeah, you think of the song Timothy? Remember that song? Timothy, with a bunch of guys in a coal mine, and they ate Timothy.
No, don't remember that. You'll have to share that with me.
It's like an old 70s song, something like that. Timothy.
The only one I remember from the coal mine was Big Bad John.
It sounded like, you know, as the song went along, it sounded like they got cannibalistic, and they ate Timothy. Well,
okay.
Now, what it actually turned out to be, you know, what the whole story is, was Timothy was the donkey that hauled the coal cart out of the mine. So they ate Timothy because they had nothing else to eat while they were trapped in
Well,
a coal mine. But at the same time, it comes down to that whole idea of,
okay,
of survival.
could you not at that state, um, if you were at that state of mental breakdown and there's 5 of you in a room, uh, become sort of like what you see in the zombie movies?
The zombie movies are pretty different from that.
Yeah, but I mean, they go after living people and they eat their flesh. Could you not see? Uh, and to add to insult to injury, say that within a week or a month or so before being put in here, you had watched a zombie movie. Could you not like live it out?
Yeah, yeah. You go through a full season of The Living Dead, and then be put in a room like.
Yeah, more brains. Just saying. Um, but could you not live it out if that if that was implanted in your brain and you just watched this movie recently, like within a month or so, um, when you got to a certain point in your mental capacity, could you not picture yourself as one of those zombies from the movie, and you got to attack, you know,
Going back to
attack
our earlier part of the conversation of, okay, you and I have both done it. Not proud of it, but
well, I've
did
never
it.
attacked nobody trying to eat their brains.
Did some acid. Okay, however you go into an acid trip, whatever attitude you have when you go in is what you're going to have while you're there.
Right, you're gonna act out on, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I never felt like a zombie wanted to eat anybody's brains, but um, I'm just wondering if, like, if you had that in your head and you were at that point of brain meltdown, and that was what was going through your head. Would you not act out on it? Would you not become what you saw?
We humans are. Wow, I'm hearing an echo. We humans are crustaceans, or whatever you want to call it, of our environment. Whatever our environment is how we react. Whether it be in sleep, whether it be alive, whether it be in the city, whether around people, whatever. Our environment is what tunes us in to how we react to things. So if you're in that environment, then yeah, you might react that way. I personally am not in that environment. I'm in a very peaceful, nice place here, and I'm just happy as a clam, So
Mary wants to know if you want gravy with that.
Pardon?
Mary won't know if you want gravy with that.
Yeah, I'll lick it up.
Some gravy with them brains. Okay. Now, my grandfather used to eat squirrel brains and stuff when I was a kid, and I used to think, "Oh God, that's so sick." Yeah.
Well, why? I mean, that's just part of something that is provided for us as a meal.
And I promise you, if you eat somebody's brain, it ain't gonna make you any smarter.
Hasn't worked for me.
And now, if that were true, and I was a zombie, I'd go after some of these geniuses and eat their brains, so I'd know how to get more brains better. Just saying, hey, be a smarter zombie,
Well, I've eaten a lot of hearts, but don't know that that's why mine is as big as it is today.
Well, did that make yours beat any better?
It beats the same no matter what,
Okay, I was just checking, Now, unless you're like Doctor Who, of course, and you got two hearts, you know. But
Uh-huh.
anyway, see, we can go anywhere with these shows. I love it. Uh,
Yes.
but you know, I mean, it's interesting to think, you know, in that kind of situation, what would you do if you, let's say, you'd watched a war movie with a lot of uh, really horrific battle going on around you, and you know, you were put in there, and you reached the point of, you know, would you start acting out? Being a soldier, you know, and you have to kill the enemy, you know, or whatever, by whatever means you could, hand to hand, whatever, you know. I don't guess we'll ever know that because we're not going to stay awake that long and have somebody watch us to see if we turn into a zombie or, you know, Rambo. But it's just interesting to think about what exactly uh, goes through your mind at that point when you reach that point of deprivation where you have a complete meltdown, okay? Where your mind starts physically going and you reach nut stage, so to speak.
You did mention something that is kind of curious to me, and it's something I go through. I've never really been in war, although I've been a sheriff's deputy and had to defend myself and this and that. In a sound sleep, and somebody touches me to wake me, I just come up in attack mode. And I don't know why, but it's like
Well,
I'm in total defense. You know.
I knew somebody else like that that was in Vietnam that was like that. In fact, I went over to visit him.
I wasn't in but I grew up during that era, and like I say, I rather than going overseas, I did 10 years in Michigan as a sheriff's deputy, and got to learn to have to defend myself and stuff. And
I went to visit him one day, and he was happened to be asleep, and he always left his front door open. You know, and he told me, he said, you know, if you come over, he said, if you're knocking, I don't answer, just come on in. So I did, and I figured he was asleep because you know, he would have locked his door if he'd have been gone. So I tapped on the door and I opened the door, and the next thing I know, there's a bayonet sticking in the door because that's how quick he had threw that knife at the same.
that's the way you wake up. It's and that's startling to me because I'm a nonviolent guy, but at the same time, when I wake up like that, I'm in defense mode right there. And I'm not sure where that comes from.
Well, because your mind, even when you are asleep, your mind is telling you that you have to protect yourself. So automatically, you know, upon something bringing you to a waking state, if it's not a familiar sound, you're automatically going to come up, you know, in a defense type mode. So,
and as I mentioned earlier, that's either the fight or flight mode. You know, that's those are the two modes that humans' brains go through, and almost any animal, it's either fight or flight. You either fight or you run, one or the other, and that's just the way we are, and that's the way with all animals.
Mary said
I
they
mean,
wouldn't want her old wrinkly brain.
what's that? Repeat that.
Mary said they wouldn't want her old wrinkly brain. I tell you what, Mary, your brain can't be no worse than mine.
Might be tasty. A little gravy.
A little salt and pepper gravy, yeah. You know, I mean, a little cheese.
Just joking, Mary. Sorry.
Yeah. So, yeah, we give up But yeah,
Well,
I mean, I really wonder though, what would we do actually if we reached that point? Would we like just lose it, go schizo, start ripping our own guts out, whatever, tearing your face off, something like that?
I think it comes down to the individual, and you really don't know. Even that individual does not know until it actually happens
Okay.
as to how your brain's going to react.
Yeah, because each person is different, and I think each person's breaking point is different. So,
Yeah.
where you
And,
might
and,
reach
and
that.
that can change. Excuse me for interrupting, but that can change from day to day. But by a daily occurrence, it can put your brain in a different state of mind. And today I might just go nuts and go wild on you. The next day, I might just be the calmest guy in the world and talk to you and say, "Hey, hi."
Where I might reach that breaking point after say 13 days, you might not reach it until about 18 days. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Depends on the
it depends
person.
on the individual.
It
Yeah,
depends on the
exactly,
person. And what are
exactly.
you gonna do in the meantime while I've done gone schizoid and thinking that you're one of the big gong and I'm trying to take you apart with my bare hands? Uh,
Well, my best suggestion would be stay in the corner.
you guys, we got about 3 minutes left, and before I say all the goodbyes to everybody, I want you to know that this story was fictional. It never happened. So, but we were just trying to get across to what if, okay, what if something like this really took place? What would they really do? How would you react? What would you do if your mind went to that breaking point to where you were so deprived of sleep that you just went schizo? Would you tear your own guts out, rip your face off, or would you try to tear the next person's guts out and rip his face off? You don't know. That's the whole point. We don't know what would actually happen if somebody was put in a position like that. And I hope they never try nothing like that. I really do. But anyway, I wanted to let everybody know that no, this was not a true story. It is fictional. Um, but the stuff that can happen from this is not fictional. It's very real. I want to thank everybody in the chat room for joining in with us. Uh, Thanks to Mr. James Clumparins there for all his help, and also your friends over there who never uttered a noise while the whole thing was going on.
They're good guests. They were just enjoying watching the whole thing, and
They were excellent.
thank you for having me aboard and my friends aboard. Always enjoy it. Interesting topic tonight,
Thanks to
and
Mary,
we will
Meg,
do
and
it
Hot
again.
Salem, and whoever else is over there that I didn't see. Everybody listening in that wasn't chatting with us, we appreciate it. Monday, Kat Hobson, Paranormal Experienced on WCJV. Very good, interesting show. She has a lot of good guests and information on there. She is also a paranormal investigator out of Alabama. So looking forward to that. Everybody make sure you come and join us. It will be 7 o'clock Monday night, Central Standard Time. And having said all that, James, if you want to shout out at anybody before we go.
Just want to say hey to all of you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for making me part of this, Roger. I enjoy it every week.
We have a big
can
time.
contribute a little bit.
Love it. So, anyways, I'm gonna jump off of here and call my daughter back before she has a conniption fit.
Yeah, your phone's been ringing. Go do it.
Well,
Good night, Roger.
She quit ringing and started messaging. Good night, everybody. We'll see you Monday.
Thank you. Thank you.